There was just this one phrase in 2 Timothy that I thought, yes, I think I'll repeat that to them. It says, Timothy says, warn them before God that they are to avoid wrangling over words, which does no good, but only ruins those who are listening. Now, every time I listen to MSNBC or some sports station or even reading the New York Times, I need to be reminded of this. So I figure you do too. Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. Now, the dictionary definition of mercy is forbearance or compassion by one who is strong, like a conqueror, toward one who is weak. Lepers in the first century and all the way through the 19th century until the cure was and an understanding of the disease, Hansen's disease, was discovered by the scientists. Lepers in the first century were outcasts and they lived apart and were avoided and ignored. They were dirty. Sort of how we felt about each other as COVID began. You remember that? I remember going to a bank and there was this one guy who refused to wear a mask, and somebody got really mad at him in line, and all of us were upset. We were afraid of each other, and because we knew that we could give each other this disease. The only way these lepers could survive was by mercy, by the forbearance or compassion of others, to provide them food and drink, give them a place to live. So it's no wonder that they cried out, Jesus, have mercy on us. And calling him Master was a way of, it's sort of like kneeling and saying, you're in charge, you're good, you're powerful, help. It's interesting, that this prayer is at the heart of the life of the church. Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. That it's an ancient prayer of the church. I hope you can imagine monks sitting around in those Greek monasteries, and they would pray this prayer for hours at a time, breathing in Jesus and breathing out, have mercy on me, a sinner. The whole prayer goes, Jesus, Son of the living God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Or in a more ancient and sort of more modern form, the one that I was taught, Jesus, have mercy. Breathe it. Jesus, have mercy. Even though we are not lepers, although we know what it's like, there are moments, I hope it's daily for you, when you and I know we need a master, somebody who's strong and good in charge, because we can't do it on our own. Actually, we know our needs so deeply that we all choose masters, don't we? The question is, will we choose one who is good? Or will we choose power or money or success or comfort or family? Will we choose something that will disappoint us, or someone like a president who will disappoint us? Just using that language, though, master, is a little uncomfortable, because I don't know about you, but I was raised by my mom and dad to be independent and strong and do it on my own. How about you? So having a master is not something we think we choose. We sort of ignore the deep need and think, I can do this. Well, so So I'm listening to this story of these lepers who cry out, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. It's familiar, isn't it? Very familiar. And Sunday school teachers and parents have been using it for generations, 2,000 years, to teach their children to be thankful. I'm not going to preach that sermon because I think something more, as I sat with this lesson, something more, something deeper. We're being invited into something deeper, something not just about how we're supposed to behave, but something about where we might go. So Jesus sees these lepers and then he hears them and he says, well, go present yourself to the priests. So they haven't anything to lose by obeying and everything to gain, so off they go toward the city and the priests. And as they went, their leprosy is healed. They are cured. Jesus stood there and watched. He put no conditions on the gift, sort of like Elisha and Naaman. He wasn't going to wave his hands and invoke God, and he just sent them off. He just stood there and watched as they left and waited. Sort of an unusual way to be a master. But of course, he didn't need to pretend. And 9 of the 10 just kept going. Now, they were not ungrateful. I think that's a mistake we make. There's no way anyone could have such a thing happen to them. They get cured of leprosy and not be grateful. Those 9 who showed their backs to Jesus were doubtless thrilled, ecstatic, thankful. It's easy to imagine them happy and laughing and feeling wonderful and even making plans for what they could do now, running as fast as they could in a terrible big hurry to get on with their lives, which were going to be better. No, the issue isn't gratitude. The issue was that those who had been cured couldn't imagine, because they were so stuck in their dis-ease, couldn't imagine there was more to life than not having leprosy. You know the trap. You know the trap. Just as we imagined for 2 years that life would be fine if there was no COVID, or if the Republicans won or the Democrats won, we can't imagine that once we have that thing we think is the most important thing, that there's not more to life. Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. No, they called him Master. But once they received the mercy, they walked away. They didn't need a master. All they wanted was a cure. Have you ever been there? I have. But one of them came back. And he is obviously an example for us. For he received the fullness of what Jesus had to give. Now, I think the English text makes it very hard to see this. All 10 lepers were cured. And the Greek word verb for cured is a medical term. It means their disease was taken away. Their bodies were healed. Whether they came back or not, God gives freely without commission. But for the one who came back, who was able to not be in such a hurry, to him and to him only, something more was given. Jesus said to him, "Rise up, go your way, Your faith has made you well. Or maybe you could translate it, your faith has healed you, your faith has saved you. In this story, and that's a different word than the word cure. In this story, 10 were cured and 1 was healed. To be cured and to be healed are different things. It's one of the great blessings of knowing that is one of the great blessings of to carry with you when you visit someone who is sick. Because we know regardless of whether someone is cured, that God will heal them. God will never let them go. God's love is more powerful than anything in this life, including disease and death. To be cured means something about your body is fixed, a broken arm knit together, a cancer disappears, a virus dies out. To be healed refers to your whole self, body, mind, and spirit. To be healed is to be given a new life that has meaning, a purpose. To be healed changes you. To be cured might change you or might not, as we can see from the story. So Jesus stood and watched the 10 run to the priests, but he didn't leave. And I think he didn't leave because he had much more to give than just a cure for their leprosy. Now, another thing that's really interesting about this story is that the one who turned back was a foreigner. That's not incidental to the story. Luke is really interested in God's work of restoring the relationship between people. In this case, between the Jews and the Samaritans. You know how the story begins? Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, and he's walking between Galilee and Samaria. Remember the commissioning of the disciples? Jesus says, wait in Jerusalem until the Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, here and now, in Judea, that is, in all of Israel, in Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. God's work of reconciliation will begin with the Jews and spread to the Samaritans, but not stop there. Go to the ends of the earth. So when Luke's Jesus is showing unconditional love of God, he is showing it not just to the Jews, not just to the Samaritans, but to everyone. And he uses the Samaritans as a sort of provocateur in this story, because in first century Judaism, a Samaritan was an outsider. They were the bad brother. There'd been a basic civil war split. They didn't war against each other, but they despised each other. They were enemies, the Samaritans were, no friends of God. Sort of like for the Jews, a religious leper, to be ignored and despised. But that's not God's way or Jesus' way. It always surprises us, when people who are not Christian, that is, they don't come to church, are more Christian than the people who do come to church. My mother used to point that out about me. She said, your father's more Christian. He's not. Than you are, meaning he is a better man than I am a woman. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's true. So this religious leper, something made him stop. Like I said, he wasn't in such a hurry, and he looked back at Jesus. Now, in my imagination, he looked back because of love. He had been seen by this person who he knew was supposed to despise him. He'd been cared about. He wasn't expecting it. He didn't think he deserved it. But there was something in that encounter that was more powerful than alienation or illness, more powerful than nationality or death. And that something came alive for the Samaritan. And so he came back and fell at Jesus' feet and worshiped him. That's something that came alive in him was love. And when he returned to Jesus, Jesus said to him, your faith, the wrong kind of faith from the Jewish perspective, your faith has healed you. Not cured, but healed you. That faith was love, received, and given. He now had a master worthy to follow. We're going to sing in a few minutes a wonderful old spiritual, oh Jesus, how's it go? Oh Jesus, master, my master and my friend. Anyway, oh Jesus, what? Oh Master, let me walk with you. Oh Master, let me walk with you. This man has, we're going to sing that later on after communion, but as you sing it, I'll be thinking about what that man received and gave, and how we are all invited to receive and give the same. For those who know and love Jesus, his presence is an invitation to return to love as a source and resource for living. You know, love is a stern master. It's not easier to follow Jesus' way, to choose to let love guide our choices. It's not easier, but in fact, it's the only way out of that trap in our lives where we want to do it on our own. We want to be loving but don't know how. It's a way out of the trap that we find ourselves in, where we resent one another, we are afraid of each other, because that reconciling love doesn't just stop with us, it spreads. We are always in need of mercy, always needing to be reminded that life doesn't get fixed or cured. It gets born in us and born in each other. And our Lord is always standing there waiting for us to return with love to thank him. That's what brings us to the church each Sunday. It's what brings us to the altar rail. It's what bubbles up in song, and it's what, even in silence, our prayer embodies. Jesus, Master, have mercy on us.